Time to get some insight on Florida Atlantic, the Owls from Zach Weinberger from the Palm Beach Post. Zach, thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
Absolutely. Listen, it's going to be an interesting weekend of football, and obviously FAU and Illinois, it's going to be one to watch. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, so let's talk about Tom Herman, a name we're familiar with, obviously, because he was at Ohio State when they won a national championship. But a third big name hire in a row after his time at Texas and Houston, following Lane Kiffin and then Willie Taggart. So, what kind of program did Tom Herman take over, and what were kind of expectations coming into this season?
Yeah, listen, he took a program that's easily to me on the rise. It was inevitable that they were going to make a jump in conferences. So when they joined the American, it just seemed sort of like likely that was going to happen when it came to what Lane Kiffin built here, and even far back when Howard Schnellenberger built here, to start off this program. But listen, especially going into the American, especially with the success that the basketball team had, obviously FAU now is on the map. So what are they going to do with that opportunity? Especially in the first season in the American Conference, they want to get a big name at head coach since Willie Taggart. It's been a disappointing era there the past couple of years. So they get Tom Herman, a proven winner, had a little hiatus in college football, working as an analyst and even in working with the Chicago Bears for that 1 year. But listen, he brings a winning mentality. He's bringing in some people in here, whether it be Charlie Fry, bringing back Rock Bellantani's DC. Bringing in a guy like Casey Thompson, who went down, and we'll probably talk about that as well. But, still bringing in names and recruiting in a great way. Because, again, not only do you now have the South Florida hotbed, but he has experience working the Texas hotbed. So, listen, I think in the long run it's going to be great. And obviously there's fans now that are, worrying because of everything now. But the program is still on the rise.
So you mentioned it, Casey Thompson, another name we know well, got hurt last year against Illinois in a loss in Lincoln. But that's a big injury. Obviously, very talented quarterback, played at Texas, played at Nebraska. So what now for FAU at quarterback? What are you expecting on Saturday?
Yeah, so listen, it's going to be Daniel Richardson, because again, before FAU got Thompson in May, Daniel Richardson was the guy in the spring, and he was the guy during the spring game as well. He looked like QB1. Really was fully expecting him to be the starter, under center if Casey hadn't come here. So, listen, he has the built-in chemistry with the guys. There's no question. Every player has spoken so highly of him. Just speaking to LaJohntay Wester the other day, again, this is a guy that not only do they know him on the field, but off the field as well. That's how much acclimated he's been. He's also a South Florida guy, so it's been a seamless transition with Florida Atlantic. So he looks sharp. He looks comfortable. We'll see if that translates to the big game atmosphere he's going to feel Saturday in Champaign, Illinois. But again, fans shouldn't really expect a huge drop off, in my opinion. I mean, I'm more talking about how the team is going to look more into conference play. I think we're going to see some growing pains on Saturday for sure. But really, Daniel Richardson has earned the spot to be the guy because he had that since the spring.
Yeah, a ton of experience at Central Michigan, and obviously a little undersized, but a good passer. But what does he bring to the field, and what do they like to do offensively? Like, what kind of offense does Tom Herman and Charlie Fry like to run?
Well, he's a very poised guy, especially in the pocket, and especially when it comes to that, experienced offensive line coached by Ed Werner. I think, again, he's going to have time to throw the football, especially in conference play. It's a very fast-paced offense. They like to run spread a lot. They have some speed at the receiver position that they like to go to. Obviously, Jaquan Burton was a huge part of that, but he's still in concussion protocol, so his status for Saturday is a little up in the air. But a guy like LaJohntay Wester, you have a three-headed, sort of thing at running back with Larry McCammon and Kobe Lewis and Zaveri Mobley, each guy who can run for 1,000 yards if they wanted to. They're banged up, so we'll have to see who kind of fills in for that. Guys like, Kayvon Walker or Robert Armetz might fill in there, but Larry looks good to go. So it's on paper before the season, the offense was going to be something that was very exciting, but besides the win against Monmouth, which an FCS team you should beat them, they look very disappointing against Ohio. Clemson, again, personally, I didn't really expect them to win that game anyways. So I think there's a chip on the shoulder of the offense to kind of get going here, especially against a huge team like Illinois and as you get into conference play. So Charlie Fry's offense, they rely a lot on the quarterback just being a pocket passer. We haven't really seen a lot of mobility from the position when Casey was there and now with them. But again, it's like this. It's like the offense you saw with when he coached the Dolphins and Tua, and especially in Penn State and other places he's been at. So it could be a very successful offense, but we have yet to see it.
You mentioned McCammon, Larry McCammon, a really talented running back. I think Phil Steele had him first team All AAC going into the year. What's it mean if he does play or if he doesn't play?
It's huge if he plays. Now, you could see it both ways because I've seen a lot of fans tell me that they might want Larry to rest because, again, even though this is a huge game against Illinois, the most important games are in conference. When you start against Tulsa, so it's a little bit of a back and forth there. So we'll see what the coaches do on Saturday. But if Larry plays, it's just a huge weight lifted, especially for Daniel Richardson. You don't want to rely so much on his first game back, just kind of thrown in there to kind of this offense really likes to go very balanced. And that was one of the bad things about the loss to Ohio. They only ran the ball 11 times, and that's their strength. And that was really a close game. The game script didn't ask them to throw that much. So it's going to be interesting. But again, if he plays, and we'll see if Kobe and Zuberi play as well. Zuberi's probably not going to, but if Kobe plays, that's going to be huge for Daniel Richardson because, again, it's a little bit of weight lifted off the shoulders.
Illinois has a slot receiver, number one, Isaiah Williams, who's really dynamic. So does FAU. Number one, wide receiver, slot receiver, LaJohntay Wester. He's legit. Watching those games, this kid, undersized, but really quick, had a big game against Purdue, has had 2 back-to-back 100-yard games. What's he mean to their offense?
He means a lot because, listen, I mean, even the past couple years, because I think now after the game against Clemson, he's the program leader for the most receptions ever. And that's the type of guy he is. He can work all over the field, whether it be on the outside, but really he lives in the slot there. He gets a lot of receptions, can go off for a lot of yak as well. So he means a lot. But, I would also say that, the receiver position has been sort of maybe a detriment to this team the past couple of years. I don't want to remind FAU fans of the game against Marshall last season or other games where so many drop passes of missed opportunities. Here you got guys like Tony Johnson, and even besides Jaquan Burton, Jamechi Hester, and BJ Alexander, there's actually some depth there now at a receiver that could possibly help Richardson, especially in the future. So, but LaJohntay Wester, like you said, he's legit, and you can just any coach during the spring, and whether it was the Taggart regime or the Herman regime, they always cite Wester as having that work ethic that just stands out from the rest. So he's a baller, and he should show that Saturday.
Yeah, he pops off the screen. That's for sure. I want to take a minute and tell you about Home Field. They are a premium collegiate apparel brand based in Indianapolis. They emphasize their commitment to creating incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. They feature a growing collection of over 150 plus colleges to choose from, including, of course, the University of Illinois. Home Field designs are super unique, guys, because they delve into the archives and history of each school, including Illinois, and they use unique logos and iconic moments to create thoughtfully designed apparel. So if you go to homefieldapparel.com, you can see the 80s Illini football helmet that so many like, Flying Illini logo, the Illinois basketball logo from the 2004-2005 Illini team. The script Illini is there. And you guys, these are the most comfortable shirts. And that's what I love about Home Field Apparel. You get the comfort, but you also get authenticity and nostalgia. So I'm telling you guys, give their site a look. It's not the typical Illinois gear you usually see. You can find them at homefieldapparel.com, where you can see their collection of colleges available. And guess what? Our listeners at Illini Inquirer get 15% off their first order with discount code Illini23. Again, 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com with discount code Illini23. So, as you go to Illinois football games, get ready for the Illinois basketball season, Home Field Apparel is the perfect apparel to get you ready for the upcoming season. So check them out at homefieldapparel.com. I'm very excited to announce a new partnership with Underdog Fantasy. We decided to partner with Underdog because it's the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Underdog Fantasy has a lot to offer, including their Pick'em game. In Pick'em, you pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total in this week's game for a chance to win big. It's so easy to play. Just pick 2 to 5 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can more than 20 times your amount of money by going 5 for 5. They also have a Best Ball Mania. If you think you know football, you got to check this one out. This year's Best Ball Mania has $50 million in total prizes up for grabs, with the winner taking home $3 million. So sign up today with promo code Illini and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. And don't forget to register with my promo code Illini to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. You must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ncpgambling.org. Illinois, I know Clemson has had a great history of defensive line play. Illinois is a very talented defensive front. How is FAU in the trenches on the offense?
Offensive line, again, they were very experienced and they really dominated Conference USA, and I think they're going to hold up against in the American. Now, again, that Illinois defensive line, like you said, that was something that I'm very worried about going into Saturday because we've seen the experience against these teams that are on the same level. But what about an Illinois defensive line? So they're going to have their work cut out for them. But if there's any person that I'm going to trust to kind of get them into shape for Saturday, it's Coach Ed Werner. And again, when you just even watching him in practice, like face to face, just first person, he works those guys like crazy, and it results in really productive seasons. And there's a lot of experience there, like I said. So they have their work cut out for them. And I would say, especially in the trenches on the defensive side, the defensive line for FAU is stellar, and maybe we're going to talk about it a little later, but Evan Anderson is one that also pops off the screen.
Yeah, Ed Werner, by the way, on Ron Zook's Illinois staff back in the day. But defense, they do have some stout guys up front. And Illinois' offense has struggled, or they struggled really last week, had 5 turnovers last week. So what have you seen from this FAU defense? What's their strengths? What are some question areas?
Yes, going into the season, I was actually a little worried about some areas, whether it be the DBs and the linebackers, and especially when, during the first week, and we've seen injury sort of problems throughout the first couple weeks. Armani Eli Adams, one of the studs heading to a season, he's out for like 8 weeks. He had a concussion protocol the first week, and then he had some injuries with his leg the next week. So that's, rough. You're going to miss him. Obviously, you're hoping that Smoke Mungeon can really fill in for that. But, who's going to step up? A guy like Jaden Williams really stepped up last season as a rookie. Can he do it again? The linebacker position, Jackson Ambush, an Albany State transfer, he's really stepped off the screen, and obviously he's been very productive. But even besides that, we're kind of waiting on people, whether it be like an Eddie Williams or a Jalen Wester, to kind of improve. But again, that defensive line is legit. Even besides the game record that he is in Evan Anderson, you have guys like Jacob Merrifield and Latrell Jean, Decarius Hawthorne. The list goes on. I mean, Jaden Wheeler. I mean, they have so much depth there at defensive line that can make things very interesting and possibly hasty for the Illinois offense. So if they can get by the Illinois offensive line, it could be a very frustrating day and cause some upset alerts type of stuff. But we have to see it first on screen. I'm not entirely sure if they're going to do it, but if there is a group that's the pure strength, it's his defensive line.
So FAU went into Purdue last year and gave them a real scare, a 2-point conversion away from forcing overtime. So Illinois is not good enough yet to feel comfortable. They are the better team, 14-point spread here. But what is the key to FAU giving Illinois a scare and potentially putting them on upset over?
Yeah, and just kind of what I alluded to earlier, again, pressure on the quarterback. Pressure. You have to start off hot on both sides of the ball. The offense, you have to throw something at them quickly. You can't just do a couple 3 and outs to start the game, a pick 6 like they did against Clemson. You really got to start hot here on both sides of the ball. Because even if Illinois has their flaws, like I've seen, they could still outmatch you and they can still make things a little ugly very early. So again, FAU, especially with again, new quarterback into the system, maybe that can show Illinois and surprise them at first. That again, they were planning for Casey Thompson. Now they got Daniel Richardson, and they can see what happens. But the keys to the game is definitely pressure the quarterback, start fast on offense, and possibly we got a game.
Yeah. What's this game mean for FAU?
In my opinion, I don't think it means that much. Obviously, if they win, it's a huge win over a huge game, a huge opponent like Illinois. It would mean so much. But if they lose, it's another loss in a money game that, again, that we've seen before. Like, again, my worries that I have with these money games, and we saw it against Clemson, is that you lose guys. Hopefully you don't want to lose guys. And that's exactly what happened in the worst scenario possible. So again, it would be awesome. And it's not like they're going to go in and just not try against Illinois. Obviously not. But from a journalism standpoint and just from a person watching football, the most important games happen in conference. And hopefully this game can really kind of battle test them, especially when you get into the conference as well. So, but again, if it's a win against Illinois, I know fans are going to be really high on this team because they're really low right now.
Yeah. Well, Illinois is also playing FAU in basketball this year in the Jimmy V Classic on December 5th at Madison Square Garden. Zach, just take us through what that run was like to watch Florida Atlantic and probably get as far as they did into the Final Four. Like, what does that program or what did that run mean for that athletics program?
I mean, I don't think it's that arguable. It's the greatest athletic season in FAU history, bar none, in my opinion. And they didn't even win the national championship, right? But listen, I knew the team was going to improve. I had them also really in contention to win the Conference USA last season, and that was a tough conference. Now, did I think that they were going to reach the Final Four? I did not. But it was insane, especially kind of being there and traveling to New York and Madison Square Garden for the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight games. And then going to Houston, the Final Four, just seeing the atmosphere. Like FAU, they were ready for it, but they're also, you can tell that people just, they had them already written off as a Cinderella team. But really, if you look at them, I mean, they're a good team with a pretty good head coach, and they're going to make some noise again next year, hopefully. I mean, I don't know if fans should have the high hopes of them reaching the Final Four again. Because I always say this: focus on winning the conference. You're going into the American in their first season. I think they have a good shot of doing it. But what it meant for the school was put so much eyes on the product, so much kind of revenue into the athletics program and into the school in general. There was nothing but good that came out of that. But again, it was one to witness. And FAU fans, I know they're going to treasure that forever.
They were able to keep the coach, which is rare, right? You're able to keep Dusty May and keep most of the team. So I would imagine expectations, and this is a big opportunity against Illinois in Madison Square Garden. This is going to be a lot of fun, I would imagine. People are pretty excited about not only that game, but this season.
No, absolutely. And that was a huge thing. One, there's like a checklist. One, can you keep Dusty May? You did that. You lock him in. Two, can you keep the big players, whether it be an Elijah Martin, a Janelle Davis that really drove them at that last season? They did that. I'm not sure how they did it, but they did it. And then even just other guys like a Vlad Golden, a Giancarlo Rosado, and just keeping the young players that really could possibly jump into next season. Because again, it's like, I don't think they have the same ceiling as they do. You have other guys there that were just starting to get it, witness into the system, and now they're going to be better next season. So it's going to be interesting. And again, if there's one person that's going to rally the troops and hopefully contend again, it's going to be Dusty May, Elijah Martin, Janelle Davis, and company. So it's huge that they kind of have one more go around. And again, I think it's because they were so close to going to the championship game, like literally the last shot close, and they want to do it again. The high is there. Again, it's going to be an interesting season next season.
Well, Zach might have to catch up before that game. It could be a big one for both these teams. But Zach Weinberger, Palm Beach Post, appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the rest of the season.
Thank you so much.